Taylor Morrison CEO Cheryl Palmer is going to be on Squawk on the Street. That's coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern. It is first on CNBC. This is just really interesting in the idea of would Greg Abel be able to move quickly and to do these deals quickly, as Warren Buffett has always done. If you had Warren's word on a deal, it was as good as done. And it sounds like this is basically what Greg has picked up and done too. He spoke with Warren Buffett about it, told him, I guess, when he first went down to meet with the CEO, with Cheryl, he went down to Arizona, spent about 5 hours with her, and when he came back, he didn't think that he had a deal. Talked to Warren about those things, but I guess about 4 days later, she called back and said that her directors were okay with it. The price is fair. Nobody else would.
Hi guys, not sure who's there. I think I'm gonna order food. How many viewers do I have? Oh, 5 viewers. Cool. It's on YouTube. Cool. That's amazing. Okay, I love it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep the stream. Oh shit. Why did it go? Okay, yeah, there we go. It's connected. Because I opened it on the other. But I do have separate sessions. Okay, that's weird. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the comments. Drop your questions. If you have questions, just drop your questions. So it's just gonna be a stream. I'm gonna keep streaming. Because I'm sitting like on my desk for the next 4 hours. So you can go and come back, and I think you're gonna find me here, unless I go to the gym.
digits through the course of last month. Inside this MOU, there is also talk of extending the ceasefire and setting up this 60-day negotiation window to resolve the big ticket item here, which is Iran's nuclear program, and for the Iranian side, that sanctions relief as well. The reporting suggests that Trump is asking for several amendments to that draft right now, particularly around the nuclear issue. CNBC has not independently verified that report, but analysts that I'm speaking to today are saying that that is the primary reason why we've seen oils move off the back of this. You can see just a modest pop in the grand scheme of things, up around 4% right now. But again, coming off a pretty low base here, given the positive momentum, the positive headlines that we've seen around the diplomatic track that have really helped.
It's crazy, guys. Like, you get in contact with people and then they just suddenly feel like it feels irrelevant. Talk to a guy for a potential partnership, and now when he answered, it feels irrelevant. I don't know. Anyway, how's your day? How's your day going? I'm just gonna try. Oh, there's one viewer. Cool, I love it. Okay, cool. Who's the one viewer who's here? Share your refer link. So I need to rack viewed hours, but yeah. Guys, if you have questions on trading, or how can I add like a text? Let's see if I can comment. If you have questions on trading, drop comment. Okay. And can I highlight this? There we go. There we go. Beautiful. Drop a comment. So now anyone who comes in can see this. What do I want to do? We want to finish this. We want to finish this, and then we want to do this. Where's the fuck did I? Huh? Okay. So many people are lost when it comes to what they want to do in their trading lives, like what to invest in, what not to invest in, how to feel about trading and investment. Share it. $4,500 is a big support for gold. Do you think it will break? I think it will break, yes. I honestly do think it will break. I think that gold is sitting at a very critical point, and I think it will break, yeah. I think it will break. Now, why do I think it will break? I think there's a lot of weakness. There's no deal with the Iranians. There's no deal. Up until this point, there's no deal. Like there's a maneuver, but there's no deal. And it's all for the sake of pushing markets.
his first public remarks since the end of his 8-year term as chairman.
Why there? Because it's not an English app. Very simple. It's just Arabic. The one that was done by Tradium is just Arabic.
Congress wisely chose to insulate monetary policy decisions from political pressure. All other advanced economy nations have done the same.
One. President Mohammed El-Arian, professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business and chief economic advisor at Allianz. I guess everyone views things a little different. It's kind of a Rorschach test. There are people that think, I guess, what Jay Powell's talking about, resisting the pressure from President Trump about lowering rates. But there's a lot of critics of how involved the Fed got in a lot of things that were far afield from its dual mandates, whether it was DEI or whether it was climate change or whatever. So it sounds good what he said there, but I think the new chairman would certainly say you went far astray from where you should have been.
Yeah, and others
You might say that too.
I would, and I would say, let's not forget we're now in the 63rd consecutive month of inflation above target. So there's been failure on policy,
That they cut rates into.
and there's been failure on communication. But I think we're going to get used to, Joe. Chair Powell has carved out, former Chair Powell has carved out independence as his thing. And we will hear from him repeatedly on this.
Yeah.
But the debate is moving on. And there's a real question mark as to what does the Fed do in this environment? And also, how divergent will the Fed become from other central banks? So I think the central banking debate will move on.
English is available, especially it's not on the app. It's tradefield.pro. So you could open it on mobile. You have it on mobile. So tradefield.pro is available on mobile and you can use it. When will the app be available? Probably in a month. Maybe in a month. But it's already there. So you can use it on desktop and you can use it on mobile. So it's fine. I mean, there's no need for apps, to be honest. Like the Arabic part is cool to have it on an app, but for the English part, I mean, to be honest, like I don't use apps anymore. I just open up the link and that's it.
Markets are in their 9th week of consecutive increases, and yet the willingness to spend by investors, by governments, by consumers hasn't been dented at all. And the question now becomes ability. Can everybody continue to spend despite what is going on in the real economy? And that's what we're going to figure out.
You think the Fed has made a mistake by not lowering interest rates? You're in the Trump camp, even despite where we are in terms of what's happened in our economy.
So before the war, and particularly, I felt they should have started in July, which they didn't. Now I think you stay as is. You neither hike nor you cut, waiting to see how the economy plays out. If I was a single mandate central bank, the ECB, the Bank of England, I'd be hiking. But the Fed
Why
is
did you
not.
end up lowering when you wanted to lower? Was that the right call in retrospect? In retrospect, you would look back and you would say, we should have done that.
We should have done it knowing what we knew then. But nobody knew that we were going to have a war that's going to extend into the 4th month. That is a real exhaustion shock that we're living through right now. We are managing it well. Both the real economy and the markets are managing it really well, but let's understand, we're living on buffers. We're living on oil inventories, we're living on this saving, and we're living on borrowing. And there's a limit to how much we can run down those buffers.
We talked about 2 articles and just curious to S&P signals best 2 months. Be careful. Marco Watch, same thing, that that this could press it to a very good next 6 months, next year. We're going to have Tom Lee on a little bit later. He's talking about the best 2-year period coming up, maybe in history. I wish he would have been on before you came, but in our bets in the past, I didn't think we were going to retest the lows a lot of times, and you did, and you won because you made it by 1 point. We retested it, and then went to new highs, and here we are. You're on. I'm not bearish. I'm not saying that. I'm not anything. I don't know what I am right now, but you're uncharacteristically positive about equities.
So no, let's be clear. I believe in the AI promise. I think this is absolutely transformational. I totally believe in that. I rather do relative trades than absolute. Tech versus the West. US, Asia versus Europe. These for me are very clear.
Yes, AI is real. How about Micron, one $200 billion company to $1 trillion company, like a year?
And you can look at that.
So AI is real, but are the stock valuations real?
I think most of them are. You had Dan Ives before, and I really do listen to. I have a lot of respect for Dan Ives, and he has been calling it absolutely right. It is the rest of the market that has been pulled up. That is more questionable. But if the relative trades for me are really obvious.
So if you hit, S&P targets, you continue to be raising your S&P target, you'd be at above 8,000.
I've continued to raise my tech target, but I do make a differentiation. Similarly, I would continue to raise my Asia target, Taiwan, Korea. I think those are real. Europe, I'd be really, really careful about.
Because of your stance prior to the war, if the war were to end, you'd be back in the cutting camp because of productivity. Now, would you feel comfortable even with inflation above the 2% target? Do you still feel comfortable in this argument that a growing economy based on productivity doesn't need interest rate hikes to deal with inflation? It'll deal with inflation on the supply side.
So I am comfortable that AI is going to lead to productivity increase, which is going to increase the speed limit, the safe speed limit. However, I'm not in the camp of the minute the war ends, it's like flicking a switch and everything's going to be fine. CEO after CEO of the energy sector has told us, and I believe them, it will take months to restore normal oil production and oil shipment. So no, I wouldn't move immediately. I would wait to see how long it takes to normalize the energy market.
But if it was 85 crude or 80, and I can feel it already, people would say that the price is fast.
Nasdaq is looking to have a retracement. I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
That's because people
I don't think Nasdaq is looking to have a retracement. No, I'm sorry.
the saving rates that has fallen, what have happened to cash balances, and we're on the cusp of something that's not great. We've borrowed and borrowed from the future, and at some point we've got to resume normality, or we're going to have to face the fact that we've borrowed so much from the future.
Do you think that we had another strategist on us with it said this is all fine until the end of this decade, and then we're going to have a 10-year secular bear market?
Yeah, I don't look that much forward. I look forward to forward.
I know you don't, but the definitive promise of AI, and it's not physics, but they call it like time dilation. Do you see how quickly quantum moves are happening and what we're doing?
No, I don't think so.
That's the irony of our we probably just missed a lot of great things, but we did.
I mean, the two of them,
These two,
you and I are in a different camp.
Why? Why do you think there's a retracement?
I just think that the technological advances used to take the quantum moves would be a million years, or even longer, and then it got down, and then you get the internet, and now AI, and it's.
So let me give you a phrase which I think sums it up, and it comes
Oh, you love phrases. I love this.
it comes from James Newton of Google, who Andrew knows and Ben know, and he says, this is not just the Industrial Revolution in terms of the general purpose technology, it's also the Enlightenment in terms of the invention of inventions. So you're combining the Industrial Revolution with the Enlightenment, and the potential is absolutely huge.
Yeah, the fascinating piece earlier that humans really, we were just the code that allowed this super intelligence. We sort of enabled it, and it's going to take it from here.
And it is, and in all this,
We're just the code.
Did you read it?
What stocks or CFDs at least we should keep in our portfolio for the short term and long term? One stock is IBM. I think HP is a good trade Hewlett Packard. Hewlett Packard. Hewlett.
We enable all that. You want to know what science fiction? Mets on a 4-game winning streak. That's science fiction.
I saw, I was watching this when they played the Reds, last week. And when they beat the Reds, finally, I think they lost the series. They knew it was a close series.
We won on Thursday. That's what matters.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, you lost the first one. They didn't land it. Yes, they landed. But, the Knicks. You don't like the Knicks?
I love the Knicks.
Oh, you do?
I love the Knicks. It's going to be a good series. We'll find out.
Coming up, SoftBank shares, they are soaring overnight, topping Toyota as Japan's most valuable company. We'll bring you details on a major new investment in Europe next. And CNBC has an exclusive interview with CEO Masa-san to bring you his comments at the top of the hour.
Elliott wave, fib retracement plus week daily candles. I agree. I saw it, but I don't believe it's gonna happen. Just a personal opinion. I mean, I hope it does. Don't get me wrong. I really hope it does. I really hope it does. But to what extent is gonna happen now? Like, if you mean in the next 2 days, I mean, I doubt it. Nothing before the SpaceX IPO. I do not think there's anything happening before the SpaceX IPO. We might have some clarity in the next few days, but I don't know. I mean, are valuations high? Yes, they are. Is the market at an all-time high? Yes. Will it necessarily retrace? I don't know. I don't think so. For now, no. After the SpaceX, if you mean after the SpaceX IPO, then yes, maybe, of course. Because you might have some liquidity sweep. Obviously, a lot of liquidity will. So, guys, this is the way it works. There's a lot of liquidity that goes out from the market when an IPO happens. Because it gets drained into company funds, right? And so, yeah, will there be a comeback at this point? Yeah, I mean a retracement. If you mean post SpaceX IPO, then yes. If you mean today, I don't think so. Precise date, but the zone of retracement has been reached. I agree. Again, I agree if it's post. Let me remove the share screen actually, because like it's not working. I do agree because I'm using TradingView here, and it seems when I open it here, it closes here and it closes here. It's crazy. Although I have the highest fucking subscription, somehow I cannot open it on two accounts at two screens at the same time. So I do agree that retracement is gonna happen, but it needs a catalyst, and that catalyst could be the IPO. So, but yeah, thank you for sharing that point, because a lot of people do not look at the waves at the different. We're effectively at the last wave. If you take COVID as a starter wave, as wave one, post COVID as wave one, we've reached wave 5 right now. Like on the bigger time frames, we are literally at the end of wave 5, which means that the retracement is indeed extremely possible. However, you need a catalyst, and that catalyst is what's gonna, my opinion, it's what's gonna really like put things into perspective. Most of my money is in stocks, but still, like, I have a lot of money sitting on the sideline for a drop. So yeah.
Shipping in today.
NASDAQ was up, I think, 8% for the month of May. It was on a tear for the whole month. There's also a shocker at the weekend box office. The movie Backrooms, which is a film based on 20-year-old Kane Parsons' popular YouTube series, brought in $81.4 million in North American ticket sales. That's at a record for independent distributor A24. That film cost just $10 million to make. It's about a furniture store owner who finds a door to an endless maze of empty, off-putting spaces. The box office haul is roughly on par with the opening of the latest Star Wars film on Memorial Day weekend. That one, which is The Mandalorian and Grogu, I think had a budget of $166 million to make.
There's some other weird thing going on too that I've been told called Obsession.
Yep, that's the other one.
$750,000 to make.
Yep.
That's 60 million. So it's 60 million
Wow.
right now. And that's another horror. The worst horror movie is great. You got to admit, right?
Horror movies are way to make money.
Certainly.
But they're fun. I mean,
That's
to this day.
But that's always been the model, and this is the Jason Blum model.
Or is this a Jason Blum?
I don't know. I don't think it is, but I'm just saying the horror genre is a lot cheaper to make than typically most other kind of movies, and the margin can be meaningfully higher. Coming up, how AI is changing the American workforce. We'll talk about that next. And a reminder, get the best of Squawk Box in our daily podcast. Follow Squawk Pod on your favorite podcast app and listen anytime. We're coming right back. Welcome back to Squawk Box. It is Jobs Week. The May employment report will be released Friday with AI disruption dominating that discussion. Joining us right now is David Marchik, is the Dean of American University's Kogod School of Business, who is the incoming interim president of the university. I want to congratulate him. In January 2023, he oversaw the implementation of AI into 100% of his business school's curriculum. Good morning to you. There seems to be, David, a sea change even in the last week on this idea that AI is going to take everybody's job. If you literally put the words AI and jobs into Google and just look at the headlines, AI doesn't have to mean layoffs. Apollo's chief economist says he sees zero evidence of AI-related job losses. The FT has a story, what if remote working, not AI, is to blame for weak junior hiring? What's going on?
Good morning, Dr. Sorkin. I know that I can only call you doctor now that you have an honorary degree.
This is true.
I think that that's true. These signs and projections of an apocalypse are just not happening. There have been 16 major studies done in the last year and a half. None of them show the apocalypse or major job loss that
Such bullshit.
predicted. What we do see is a significant change in the type of jobs. There's going to be job churn. And those jobs that have AI skills in them are going to pay 50% more than jobs without AI skills in them. So I think that there's going to be a lot of change, but it's too early to tell whether we're going to have a major net job loss or net job gain. We're just not seeing the net job loss that people had predicted.
But David, when you think about young people coming out of school today, whether it's the business school or undergraduate, there is a deep concern, as we saw even just by the boos that were taking place at commencement addresses across the country every time the word AI was mentioned. There seems to be a pent-up anxiety, I think in large part because you have conversations with young people and they say there's a lot of kids in their class that aren't getting jobs right now.
Well, I didn't hear the AI boos at your commencement, but there have been some at others. I think it's a scary time for many people. There's a lot of change in the economy, and anytime there's change, there's a lot of insecurity. We are seeing some downward pressure on early career jobs. One study said that there's been a 14% drop in jobs for early career workers. So there is a change. And I think the response is that we need to infuse AI into curricula to train people to prepare for the AI economy, to give people those skills and to enhance the skills that are so human. Critical thinking skills, working in teams, the ability to problem solve, all the skills that you showed, and I talked about you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, when we started to do that. But David, what I'm trying to understand though is a certain logic train. I think that, writing oftentimes forces people to learn, meaning when you actually have to physically write something down, either by hand or typing, you have to put your ideas,
Guys, every now and then I'm gonna look at the questions, right?
ChatGPT or
It's escalating. Yeah, I'm sorry you're going through that.
Ideas in all sorts of orders that make no sense, just to sort of brain dump, if you will, and it'll probably put it in a logical order for you. And what that ultimately does to someone's own agency, but also their ability to learn when they're young about creating a sort of persuasive argument or putting things in sort of a logical way?
AI cannot replace fundamental human skills, reading, writing, reasoning. You have to learn those
Bullshit.
fundamental skills, and then AI can enhance your ability to
Bullshit.
be effective and productive. So we teach
Bullshit.
with AI before we teach what's right with AI, and then we teach students how to ethically use it, and that's what they're going to need to use in the workplace. You can't just outsource writing to AI; you're going to fail.
But so when you say, but here's the hard part, when you say that students need to learn how to use AI, I 100% agree. And then at the other end, I think to myself, you know, they should be taking AI classes, but they maybe also should go to classes where they get a blue book and a pen and a paper and should be forced to write essays without even a typewriter anymore. Because given a laptop, your propensity is going to be to go to Claude or effectively, maybe to cheat the system, if you will.
So we're doubling down on exactly what you said. We're doubling down on the ability to make an oral presentation, to be able to think on your feet, to work in teams. And we are requiring students to write in blue books. You have to have the fundamental skills. You can't outsource those to AI. But if you have the fundamental skills plus the AI skills, you're going to do much better in this economy.
Okay, David, I want to thank you. Appreciate it very, very much. And congratulations on your new post.
Thanks. Come back and speak again.
Will do. Thanks again.
All right, coming up, we're going to tell you what prediction markets are saying about the Knicks versus the Spurs in the NBA Finals. That's next. But first, the AccuWeather forecast with meteorologist Bernie Randall.
Well, a couple of spotty showers today.
Guys, anyway, if you have a question on trading, make sure to share it. And thank you for being on the live.
Shower or two around Chicago. Still steamy in the southwest with a couple of thunderstorms this afternoon. Much less humid air arrives tomorrow. Hot in Texas and hot in the southwest. If you're doing any traveling, shouldn't be too many delays today. I'm a little worried about a delay or two inland in Miami. AccuWeather for Business delivers proven superior accuracy with often earlier site-specific warnings that reduce false alarms and costly disruptions, so your business stays best prepared. Visit business.accuweather.com.
sort of
Guys, I'm sorry, I had to go. Sorry. I'm back. I'm back.
I think that we've learned from the last couple of years in the Middle East that ceasefire has been redefined in the English language. And certainly that began with Gaza, with Lebanon. And now we're seeing that at a lower level of hostility, thankfully, in the broader Persian Gulf region. And so, I think obviously both sides are maintaining blockades, so we're still in a conflict that involves active lethal strikes. That's something as it does. And
I need to order food. That's my day, guys. Imagine like I'm working for like 4 or 5 hours non-stop like this. Charts. You guys now on this, and then the news. And then food, charts, food, charts, food, charts.
negotiated a pact, or at least the framework for one of those pacts. As that's happening, Israel is continuing to push further into Lebanon. At this point, they've captured a strategic high ground at a historic Crusader castle that it hasn't held for a quarter of a century. How do all these pieces fit together?
Well, you're right to raise that because, of course, Iran has said that within a proxy Hezbollah is sort of on the receiving end of a lot of Israeli attacks in Lebanon. They're not very happy about that. They want a stronger ceasefire in Lebanon, too. That will probably complicate talks because I think on the nuclear issue, most of the highly enriched stuff it has now, and meanwhile get that highly enriched stuff out or diluted or something. So you can easily imagine how that kind of solution or compromise is framed. Less so with Lebanon and Hezbollah, where Israel clearly has an interest in battering away at Hezbollah as long as it can. And I don't know that it's going to accept the ceasefire. President Trump may have to use every bit of leverage he's got with Minister Netanyahu at some point, because I don't think Iran will agree to a lasting deal otherwise.
Hezbollah, though, obviously has been an antagonist for so long with Israel, and Netanyahu is now taking criticism from those who say that he is, bowing to the Trump administration and not pushing further on that. Your expectation is that President Trump will be the one who comes in and says, enough, we are looking at a broader situation here?
I think so. It may not be right away, and perhaps Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to play for time and pretend to go along with the idea of bowing to Trump's demands at some point, but then just ask for another week or 2 or 3 or 4. Netanyahu's pretty good at seeing the political and strategic openings, so that may be the situation we wind up in the course of the summer, or maybe Netanyahu will say, okay, we've advanced far enough, but I'm still going to do the occasional strike, and we'll see if Iran can live with that. Those are the sorts of back and forths I expect over the next few weeks. I don't expect a clean single agreement.
And then you've got China watching and questions about what happens to Taiwan with all of this. What's your assessment, Brookings' assessment of where Taiwan lies with all of this?
Well, I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but for myself, I'm a little bit more sanguine about the ability to maintain deterrence in the Asia Pacific, even as we focus on the Middle East, even as we focus on Europe, more than the Trump administration would like, and even as we run down some of those munitions inventories. Obviously, that's bad news, the latter part. We need to replenish those and build those up. And there are some good ideas out of the Trump Pentagon for doing that. I'll give them credit where credit's due. But in the meantime, I think the summit went pretty well between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. I hope Trump doesn't go so far towards calling relations with China that he leans towards abandoning Taiwan. But on balance, I think both sides.
What questions do you have? How to start a portfolio and grow it? How to learn patience and when to enter? This is a very interesting question. Hang on, let me answer this question. So how do you actually build a portfolio? The first thing you have to understand is when you're building a portfolio, you have to think about how to fuel the portfolio. That's the first part. And a lot of people do not really understand this part. So what do I mean by that? What the fuck is this? Just a second. If you don't have a source of income, that's a lot of people do not understand this. If you do not have a source of income, then your basically what happens is that your portfolio, your trading becomes the actual source of income, which makes it much more complex to build a portfolio. What do I mean by that? When the money is that's in your IBKR account or whatever trading account you have is your main source of income, then you wake up, imagine the situation. You're waking up every day with this constant fear of, will my portfolio go up today or go down? And this is something that's literally not sustainable, because you live with a very high level of stress. You have cost. Obviously, you have cost that could increase at some point. So you have cost that could increase, let's say, when it comes to rent, when it comes to food, when it comes to outings, medical sometimes, like it could be anything. So if you don't have a source of income that's fueling your portfolio, then the stress that you're literally building up inside from the portfolio, like fluctuation, is gonna, in my opinion, is gonna destroy you. So your only solution in this case is to, if you want to build a portfolio, to make sure that portfolio is fueled by a source of income outside of this portfolio. See what I mean? So how do you build it? If you want to start with $1,000, for example, if you're not trading stocks, first of all, you're doing something wrong, because if you're not trading stocks, you're probably gonna lose trading markets, like going like bullish on Nasdaq or bearish on gold, etc. And then it's gonna drain you, because you cannot really predict the markets on a daily basis. No one actually can. Not me, not you, no one. So what you need to do is to, in my opinion, if you're starting with $1,000, you put in that $1,000 in a stock trading account, number one. Number two, you make sure to have a source of income. What do I mean by a source of income? I mean, like, it could be any job, literally any job out there, right? Could be video editing, going on Upwork, literally posting for video editing, or copywriting, or whatever you want to create, marketing. Learn it, bro. Like, you learn it and you start making money and you start fueling that portfolio. And at the same time, when you're doing that, you start really watching the markets for the right opportunity to jump into a stock that could make you that 10, 15, 20%, right? That's the first step. Second step is to start with two things. Number one, prop challenges, and you get the cheapest challenge and you start training, right? And that's gonna potentially enable you to get some payout that you could use to fuel your portfolio. Let's say it doesn't happen, which is also very hard to actually achieve, but let's say it doesn't happen, you still have option trades. In the option trades, you need to really connect with an options trading community. We are building our options trading community. So it's gonna be live by next week, so you could join in. But options can give you a certain output. That said, options are very risky. So if you're trading options, you could go literally to zero on one trade, and that's what a lot of people are scared of. So what you need to do is like to juggle all of this together while making money. This is how you build a portfolio, bro. I mean, I was building my portfolio while studying at a university where I wasn't paying tuition. I was doing side jobs. I was working as a barman for some time. I worked as a salesperson for some time. I worked as a waiter for some time. and that enabled me to get money. And then when I went to New York, I had a side job. I took a financial aid for my studies, and then I became a lawyer. And then when I became a lawyer, I started having these big salaries, and those big salaries I put into my trading. So I didn't go out. I didn't really have fun with the money. I put into my trading, and today I'm reaping the rewards. So yeah, that's pretty much how you do it, bro. I literally gave you the blueprint. You just gotta apply it. You just gotta do it wherever you are in the world. Literally wherever you are on the freaking planet, wherever you are, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Literally doesn't matter. I don't know. I hope it helps. I hope what I told you actually helps. I hope you listened, but I'm not sure. Maybe you're gone. Maybe that guy took a break. But anyway, we'll get to see. Not sure if it helped you or not. He can rewatch. Yeah, I know. He can rewatch for sure.
More likely to try to go out and get outside money because you maybe want to actually build more. That could be one answer. But on the other end, are the investors going to be as excited as they might have been otherwise? I think these are all the questions.
Rocket science is hard to stop. SpaceX had a lot of fiery crashes in its early days. Yeah.
Rocket science sort of brain surgery. But we promised Dom Chu, patiently waiting. I was going to ask him a question, an honest question, but I guess maybe I'll do it at the end.
Honest question?
It's an honest question. Have you ever had 4 more birdies in a row? Especially to win a tournament?
I've never had 4 birdies in a row
To win a tournament.
I've had 3 in my life before. I've had 3 birdies in a row. 3 birdies in a row, right?
He can definitely rewatch, yeah, for sure.
So I've done that, but I've had 4.
And then Jack's house this week is always exciting.
It will be. I think it's one of those. I mean, it's a even before the technical signature event, kind of moniker. It was a signature event. Right?
People want to shake Jack's hand as a winner.
Yes,
I think they want that more than a trophy.
and they want to milkshake there at your village as well. Anyway, all right. So let's get you through some of these movers here, because as Andrew did point out before, we're checking some of the action in those movers coming in the headlines of that NVIDIA push into PC computers and laptops. NVIDIA's new processor is going to be incorporated into that new super chip debuting this fall, and that fresh line of Windows PCs from the likes of Microsoft and Dell, HP, Lenovo, and others. Those shares, as you can see, they're all moving higher in the pre-market. Meanwhile, you got shares of chip maker Intel, been a king in the PC market for ages now, down about 6.5% on that news. So keep an eye on that chip complex. On NVIDIA getting into personal computers at the edge, to Andrew's point. Meanwhile, you got United Music Group shares, which are down right now by just about 1%. After the company's board of directors on Friday unanimously rejected an unsolicited takeover bid from Bill Ackman's Pershing Square Capital. The board said the proposal materially undervalues the company. It said the takeover was not in the best interest of shareholders or music artists or the company, which is behind musicians like Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar, amongst others. Pershing Square declined comment on that. Shares are now down over 30%, you can see, over the course of the past year. And then shares of Yum! Brands in focus right now are gaining just about 2.5% to 3% on reports the company's in exclusive talks to sell its Pizza Hut franchise operation to private equity firm Long Range Capital. deal could come together.
Will Webull be affected if the market drops? I mean, the whole market will be affected. Will Webull get affected? Like, the whole market will drop for sure. I took some profits at 7.5, but I still hold Webull. I'm holding long term, to be honest. For me, Webull is a long-term play.
$81 billion for HuckMoney to build Europe's biggest AI facility in France, and CNBC's couple spoke to CNBC's to CEO Moss's son earlier this morning, and he joins us now with the highlights. Good morning.
Good morning to you as well, Andrew. Look, it was a huge investment here in Europe. It's the single biggest AI data center investment in the continent, as it tries to catch up with some of the big deals we've seen over in the US as well. Now, France has been touting things like low carbon, its nuclear power here. That's enticed SoftBank to make this €75 billion investment here. Now, as I was speaking to SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son, we discussed SoftBank's positioning. It's trying to be at the center of this big AI boom with its investment in companies like Arm around chips and its big $60 billion commitment to OpenAI around the models as well. And we talked about where we're at in this investment cycle right now. Masayoshi Son said that this is a 50 to 100-year journey around AI. He said this is just the beginning of AI, and he believes this is going to be 50x bigger than the dot-com boom. But I ask you, given the run-up we've seen in valuations in some of the public markets and the private markets, is he concerned about a correction? Here's what he had to say.
There's always a correction, okay? Even year 2029, there was a crash in the Wall Street. That was basically because of electronics and monetization. Now, if you look at the history, electronic and monetization, 1929, it crashed, but went up many years for the next 100 years after that. So that kind of thing is going to happen. There may be some correction, but that would be a best investment opportunity to me, if there is any correction.
Masayoshi Son believes the correction is coming, but actually could be a good buying opportunity for the company.
See, I mean, the guy literally is saying the correction could be coming. Which stocks are you watching this week? To be honest, hey bro, to be honest, I'm watching so many. They're way better than the lives on TikTok. Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's a stream and it's easier. And I could keep working and you could ask questions. I'm watching mostly HP. HP is an interesting stock to me because I do believe that $50 is attainable. And then a bunch of small caps I will share on my Twitter subs. But on the longer run, I'm definitely bullish on HUD, definitely bullish on IBM. I think quantum is gonna be a big player in the next few years. So take it this way. So the whole process of technology, look at NVIDIA right now. It's cannibalizing Apple, it's cannibalizing Microsoft, it's cannibalizing Dell, it's cannibalizing all of the players that actually provide computers, like all of them. So I'll be looking, for example, in HP, I'll be looking for a potential retracement after the news that NVIDIA is going into PCs. So it's going to literally launch its own PCs. It's going to be selling you the PC that's branded NVIDIA, right? It has all the chips. So guess what's going to happen? It's going to cannibalize the whole kind of PC ecosystem, right? And you're going to have certain players that will dominate across the board. And that's why I was bullish on Apple, because I do think that Apple, the consumer brand, will never be able to, will never lose versus NVIDIA, the tech brand. It's very hard for NVIDIA to play on Apple's turf. It could play on Microsoft's turf. It could play on HP's turf. It could play on IBM's turf. It could play on Samsung's turf. It could play on all of the, like literally on all of the market the market share of all of those brands, but it cannot play on Apple's turf. That's my opinion. Again, will they be able to innovate on the branding level? It's going to be difficult. So I'll be looking at a potential retracement for HP to come in. I think $50 is attainable. IBM is something positive. I'm looking at quantum stocks. I think RGTI, I have a position in RGTI, so I do believe it's a good price. It went all the way up to $50, went back to 16. I think ultimately they're gonna launch their own chips or their own kind of hardware, which is gonna be positive. And then the small caps, I'm looking at different small caps. I'll share in Twitter subs, and we'll get to see how they perform. I mean, you win some, you lose some, but anyway, we'll get to see how it happens.
Joining us now, Tom Lee, head of research at Fundstrat and chief investment officer of Fundstrat Capital, as well as a CNBC contributor. Tom, welcome. I don't know if you heard me talking. I don't need notes to talk about you because you're on a lot, and I remember what you say, and it just to sort of set the stage for what we're going to talk about. In the past, you've made some calls that people should never make. Like, it's going to be a good inflation number on Friday. I'm a lot less S&P.
Who's that? Oh, Tom Lee. Let's go. Tom Lee. The Ethereum guy. Let's see. Let's see. Tom Lee. Can we share the screen here? Oh, I can't open it here anyway.
And we were going along quite nicely till the war. And I remember it was almost a mini Liberation Day sell-off. Not quite as bad, but pretty steep. And you said it's already done. And by the end of this month, we're going to be significantly higher. And it was right in the midst of things hitting the fan. Not only did that happen, we took off in April, just like you said, and we've continued in May. So, I mean, you could take a complete victory lap. And we've got so many people that come on here that have no idea what the market's going to do near term or long term. And it just contrasting, what you do so well from time to time. You can't do it forever, though, Tom. You're going to be wrong one of these days. But you're right again this time.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I know it's been a tough market for folks. I mean, I'm not surprised. We were kind of expecting 2026 to be a year where turbulence could happen and people would see head fakes. But there's still some really powerful tailwinds for America. One is, of course, the AI story. And now we're learning about the energy independence, right? America can deal with high oil because we're not going to have a shortage of it. And then there's further tailwinds coming because as AI moves downstream, it's really benefiting American businesses. I think that's why S&P earnings came in for just the first quarter $10 higher. That's $40 for the year. And if you just put a 20 multiple, that adds 800 points to the S&P. So I think there's a lot of grounding for why stocks are able to recover. But again, I think we still might have challenges between now and December. So I think everyone still needs to be vigilant, but generally bullish.
What did you say about the next 2 or 2.5 years being some of the best market activity that we've ever seen. You still feel that way? And it wasn't, that was not on this show. You said it somewhere else. But what is your forecast for the next 2 years, and what's it based on?
Well, I think a couple things are coming together, Joe, that are going to really support a few things that may only happen like once in our lifetime. One is I think the U.S. economic growth rate is actually starting to step up. In other words, we could grow at 4%, and for a mature, largest economy in the world to start to accelerate growth, that's pretty astounding. The second is the U.S. is one of the biggest exporters of the most important tool in the next 10, 15 years, which is AI products. And that means we are a net, essentially, exporter of a high-value product. And there's so much capital, I think, misallocated today because so much of it is held in private alternatives, but it's going to move into the public market. So I do think that, plus the demographic tailwind of millennials and Gen Z adding to the workforce, but then also beginning to inherit generational wealth, I think that is going to set up for after 2026, perhaps, over the next 2 years, some of the biggest gains of the stock market in our lifetime.
We just had a board. So you think we hit 7,700 near term, and then there's a pullback, and then after the midterms, is it coincident with the midterms, the pullback, and then we had higher afterwards? Was that?
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I mean, this is our best guess. I think June markets can still build on the gains, just not at the rate that May did, and I think it is money moving downstream. So there's going to be software rallying and beneficiaries of AI. But between, let's say, June and October, we do have to digest potentially 3 major IPOs coming, and the market will try to understand Kevin Warsh's new sort of model for inflation, but I think the market always tests the new Fed. And then we have that normal seasonality around midterms. And so I think we can have a drawdown that'll feel like a bear market. And as you know, that February, April was just a 9% decline, but it felt like a crash. And so I think markets are going to really struggle if we start to have a drawdown. And then, of course, from October, I think that's when a very strong rally starts.
Andrew, I was gonna say how bad you did on crypto, but I don't know.
We're in a slightly different place, and we could do that too. But I was going to ask him about Mark Cuban. I don't know if you saw Mark Cuban said that he's now dumped or sold all of his Bitcoin, given that he no longer believes it's acting as a hedge against inflation or anything else. Ari's gold is proven to be a better bet, and the Bitcoin is not acted the way it should if it's supposed to be digital gold. What say you?
Well, on the one hand, I think Mark is right. Crypto's been disappointing because crypto should move with, equity markets, and it should be rallying with software. Software is really starting to rally big, and crypto hasn't moved. So I think there are what I call, quote, rage quitting, people selling here as if something is wrong. I mean, one, I think that's what always happens at the end of crypto winter. If someone asks me, is the thesis for Bitcoin or Ethereum broken? It's absolutely not, because one, the more work we do, and we're hearing it from founders like Palantir, Bitcoin and Ethereum are really the future of money, because mass and compute and energy, however Elon puts it, really are what's scarce, and you're going to need to control agent systems. And as AI systems evolve, right, we're now talking about using commerce and operating websites, you need decentralized identity and verification. That's really what crypto does. And we know Wall Street wants to go towards tokenization. It's a vast improvement in efficiency of actually how money moves, and it's an innovation. Well, that only happens on Bitcoin and Ethereum and other smart contracts. So the future isn't changed, but the spotlight today is, of course, on semis, memory, starting on software. But as people focus downstream and into the future, that's really, I think, when the bid comes for Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Because when you talk about stocks, it's so easy for you. You did $10 times 4. That's $40. Put a multiple on it. That's 800 points. Why do you even try with Bitcoin? What's your comparable analysis to be able to come up with anything to make predictions about Bitcoin or Ethereum. There's nothing that you can base it on, except maybe
Listen.
your sentiment or something.
Yeah, well, there's.
Do you see a potential retracement in the market? Yes, I do.
Plays a huge role.
I answered before above. Yeah, I do.
There are two proven ways to value crypto. One, of course, is just network.
Antoine, cheers, bro.
It's an activity law.
Yeah, of course I do.
Even now, 87% of the rise of Bitcoin. So as long as more people use it,
I'll share it in my subs on Twitter.
the value of Bitcoin should go. It's a network effect. And the second is the umbrella value of gold. You know, gold at when it hits 5,000, if Bitcoin.
I'll answer you just in a bit.
Value is gold,
Oh, food is here.
Bitcoin, that would put Bitcoin in around 2 million. So to me, I think there's still two ways to look at the value, and of course for Ethereum, it's been shown for every dollar of tokenized assets, you know, tokenized dollars for others, it's creating a so if you believe Wall Street's going to tokenize, Ethereum's price should go up a lot.
All right, Tom. Good to have you on, and we'll check back hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Coming up, family offices in the U.S. making a major shift, with many moving cash outside of the country. Robert Frank's got the details of the new survey in today's edition of Inside Wealth Next. But first, before we go to that break, check out the early S&P 500 winners and losers.
Yeah, we could easily have a retracement. Easily. Just let me finish this and I'll answer you.
Welcome back to Smartbox. So family offices making big portfolio changes, shifting money away from the U.S. Robert Frank this year has got more details about today's edition of Inside Wealth. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Good to see you. Well, global family offices are making the biggest changes to their portfolios in years, and many are moving out of the U.S. and out of the U.S. dollar. 60% plan to change their allocations. That's about twice the levels of the past 5 years. That's according to the new UBS Global Family Office report. Now,
who's in my sub list?
offices say they are overexposed to the dollar, and 2/3 expect confidence in the dollar to decline
The only region in the world that family offices plan to reduce this year is North America. Advisors saying this is not a sell America trade, but more about true global diversification.
All the other family offices around the world are now diversifying out of the dollar-denominated securities, out of the U.S. a little bit, still over 50% invested in the U.S., but looking at different regions, currencies, and booking centers.
And new catchphrase in family offices is jurisdictional diversification. That's spreading your money over a broader array of countries, tax regimes, and legal systems at a time of geopolitical uncertainty. Geopolitics, not surprisingly, is now the #1 worry among global family offices. That's followed by global trade and inflation. For more on how family offices are investing and how the wealthy are spending and investing their money, you can sign up for the Inside Wealth newsletter at CNBC.com/Inside Wealth.
That's pretty crazy stuff. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, and one thing I would say is that there's a big split. It's the overseas family offices, the non-US family offices, that are mainly diversifying away from the US. The US family offices are actually investing more in the US. They went from 86% in the US to 88%. So there's big divergence.
Is that the case in all areas, though, that everybody's looking more at home investing? That certainly seems like the mentality we've seen.
Definitely, that's a big theme.
Okay, Barbara, thank you.
Yes.
Hey, before we go, is there a policy thought on this?
Yes.
Like how much would you need to change the policy before this can happen?
I don't think this happening is a bad thing. I think family offices are getting more sophisticated. They want to be truly diversified around the world, whereas before it was like you're in the US and maybe one other country. But I think where policy comes in, we saw tariffs play a role. We see government debt play a role on the dollar. And those are things that are directed related to policy.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, guys.
When we come back, Berkshire Hathaway is striking a deal to buy homebuilder Taylor Morrison. We'll have the details, the stock move, and some comments from Warren Buffett about that deal. All of that coming up next. Squawk Box will be right back.
What are you guys doing? How's your day? Wow. Addicted, guys.
Welcome back to Squawk Box.
Great working from home and waiting the market open. What about you?
For $72.50
Yeah, same.
in cash, or $6.8 billion excluding debt. That's at a 24% premium to Friday's closing price. If you include debt, it's an $8.5 billion deal. You can see this morning that Taylor Morrison home shares are up substantially, 71.85. That's an increase of about 23%. It puts it just below that price that Berkshire has said that it will pay for it. That acquisition will add to the home builder to an already sizable housing portfolio at Berkshire that already includes Clayton Homes and Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, as well as a number of other companies that kind of play into home building, everything from Acme Brick to Shaw Carpeting and Flooring, Benjamin Moore Paints. I spoke to Warren Buffett about this deal, who, by the way, this deal is the first deal that Greg Abel has done as the CEO since the beginning of the year. It's the largest acquisition for Berkshire Hathaway since last fall, when they paid $10 billion for Occidental Chemical. Here's what Buffett said about Greg with this deal. He said, Greg did this deal faster than I could have done it. He did it smoother than I could have done it. And I never talked to the CEO. He has launched. I think this is kind of their way of getting the word out that Greg is doing these deals on his own. He spoke with Warren Buffett, a board member, about it. He spoke with Sue Decker, the lead independent director, but the rest of the board wasn't notified until later. Taylor Morrison CEO Cheryl Palmer is going to be joining Squawk on the Street. That's coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That is first on CNBC. And Squawk Box will be right back.
Bro, that schmuck literally did not sign the agreement. So I'm gonna give him 24 hours. He doesn't. I'm dropping the deal. I'm not doing it. He knows that we literally worked on the legal part for the longest time. We did the DD and it wasted our time. So he doesn't want to do it. He just like the fuck with him and his company, to be honest. Dropping the company completely. And you could tell no, you know what, don't tell anyone. Call me in like 30.
Welcome back to Squawk Box after some good games on Friday, which saw the averages close at new highs. We're adding to those this morning significantly. We got 30 points, 31 points on the S&P, closing in on 7,600. There's the Dow. firmly ensconced above 50,000. And the NASDAQ that you gain as well as more treasuries. Not a whole lot to see. Big change, obviously, this week. Big employment report coming on Friday. And then oil, all these gains that we're seeing in spite of an upward move there, 3.4% back above $90. Yeah, spot box. Getting some guests roused up. We'll be back in this moment.
Man, such a visionary. Voted. Should you start what? Hang on, let me go up in the question. Just read your tweet, so I guess we should wait before entering. Correct. Are you in Palantir or ServiceNow since Trump bought them? He did not buy them. Yeah, anyway. Now it's already up like 20%. Yeah, now I'm in it. With Palantir, I'm short. Even more. Yes, even more. Should we wait for the retracement if we are planning to start a new portfolio? I mean, ideally, you'd want to wait on post June 12th. But then again, I mean, long-term positions won't really matter. But I mean, since you're that close to the IPO, I mean, you might want to see the IPO flush out before you actually go deeper. DM me on X. Let me know if you're part of my subs. DM me on X your plans. Yeah, I can imagine, bro, the pressure. First time I got someone into stocks, I was like shitting my ass out. I can only imagine the pressure you're feeling, because it's your dad's money and he's gonna say, what the fuck did you get me into? And you might wanna, by the way, you might want to alleviate your stress a bit. Like, if he tells you, so wait, do this. If he tells you, I'm gonna put, let's say, I don't know, 10,000. Say, Dad, just give me 5 for now. If he tells you like 100, say, give me 50, right? Why? Because he's gonna feel that he already saved money when he gave you the amount and you said, I'm gonna take less. So it will, you know, psychologically it would alleviate that the pressure from you on you. You got me?
really excited based on the data, not just looking at who's at the top of the rankings, but also who we might expect to be at the top, who currently aren't.
So when you look at that, how much of this is moving around? How much of this is sort of static, do you think?
Good job. Yeah, already a win, right? He already saved the money. It's a good start. You know, psychologically, right? As long as you don't buy another camel. That could be a good good buy, though. You know, camels are very profitable. Off topic, but yeah. Hang on.
CEOs, what's the outrage?
Yeah, well, we're starting to see people go in, download the data, look to see, where their company stacks up in the ranking amongst their peer group. One of the questions that we've heard most often is, we want to know where we are amongst our peer group. Right now, a lot of the research and data is on sectors specifically. Here's our sector versus another sector, but we want to empower boards and C-suite executive teams to know where they stand compared to their closest peer group. And that's why we have sector normalization as we look at the different companies in this index.
And obviously, one of the big questions we talked about earlier this morning is just the idea of jobs. You talked about looking at job postings in the context of AI. There's also the question of whether there's going to be job firings in the context of AI or just not job hiring, if you will. And yet it seems like in the past week or two, all that whole sort of narrative has been flipped on its head. Where are you on that?
Yeah, we're starting to look a little bit more at the data.
And I think you should add me as co-CEO, number one. And number two, I think one of them should be operations and the other should be in risk. I think that's operations and risk. And I don't know.
But my belief is that AI will in time create more jobs than perhaps it takes from the economy. So we'll see how it plays out. Again, something that we're going to be tracking extremely closely. But if we think about the definition of an organization around a group of people, I believe there'll be a group of nodes moving forward. These organizations need chief node officers.
You also talked about this idea of it's not necessarily growth or productivity.
The fuck is calling me, bro?
Loss. Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot about the obsolescence for an organization. Right now, I hear a lot of executives talk about, people who use AI will replace people who don't in the workforce. And while I think it's important that people develop AI skills and literacy, what I truly believe is that there is a greater risk, and that is of an organization using AI replacing one that does not in the marketplace moving forward.
So this is just about trying to avoid completely cannibalizing your own business, but maybe you have to cannibalize part of your business in the process. Paul, I want to thank you. There's an article we should mention up on CNBC.com right now about all of this and more. Thanks.
When we come back, containing the Ebola threat, a top infectious disease expert says our nation isn't prepared amid federal funding cuts and job vacancies in health agencies. Dr. Michael Osterholm, who is the director of the University of Minnesota's Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy, will join us with his warning next.
I know, but we can add them. We can add them for the time being. We need to close the. We need to close. I think we can hire, but I think it's good, and if we give them, literally. It is, but we need to have a clear structure so that they could move forward with it, like in the next 24 to 48 hours. That's the point. So حتى co-CEO, حتى risk, one of them, support operations, the other person. Who the fuck is this? Anyway, I have a question off topic, not on stocks. With all your experience, if someone is building a new marketing team for a startup, do you have any tips or advice? DM me, I'll share with you the tips. Yeah, of course. I do have a lot of tips. DM me, I'll share with you the details so that you don't get burned. Because a lot of people get burnt. But yeah, for sure. I mean, the first step is for you to know exactly what is the character you want to join, you want to onboard from a marketing perspective. And if it's an agency, what's the brand profile you're looking at? Oh, fuck.
However, it is such a massive issue in Central Africa, the closeness of people, the rituals requiring touching the bodies of their dead before they're buried, have put this really into a very rapid transmission situation. As you may recall, we actually had a very serious Ebola outbreak back in 2014, 2015 in Western Africa with over almost 30,000 cases. I think this has the ability to far outstrip that. It's a situation where what we have on the ground right now in Central Africa, among the countries where we're seeing this, it's just inadequate to respond in a meaningful way to slow things down.
This is a different strain than the 2014 strain. That was the Zaire strain. This one, we don't have any real medicine to kind of go after with, to infect this strain in particular.
Yes, exactly. We didn't really have any medicine in 2014 either. We don't have it now. However, what we did finally get in 2014 was a vaccine. We don't have a vaccine for this particular strain, Bundibugyo, which is the one that we're dealing with. And our hope, though, is that in the days ahead, we're going to find that by vaccinating with that other vaccine, it still may provide some protection, even if not against getting infected, at least dying from it. But one other challenge we have is this virus does not show up on usual testing. It takes a special kind of test to do this, and they're in very short supply. So imagine, somebody coming into your clinic with a severe fever, and your first question is this malaria or is this in fact Ebola? And so this has made it very complicated. The other thing that's going to make it complicated is, for example, the United States supporting this effort in the previous outbreaks. We have sent people on the ground where they have provided incredible support for controlling the outbreak. Right now, the message is to Americans, if you come to Africa and you're willing to basically roll up your sleeves in the sense of getting involved with this, but you should get exposed to the virus through an accidental needle stick, or you should come down with Ebola, or you're not welcome back in our country.
To me, this is absolutely a very impossible situation to try to.
What's the marketing agency you're building? What is it? What's the marketing agency you're building? Like, what does it do? Who does it cater to? Do you have an angle for it?
We don't know. At this point, it's really up in the air. If you look at the U.S. plan, and I'm responding to Ebola, there was the previous two administrations. In fact, when Trump won, there was actually a very detailed plan that had been written and prepared to how we would respond. At that time, remember, we had the USAID and we had PEPFAR, both organizations that, while they were dealing with a number of different infectious diseases, HIV with PEPFAR, the resources they brought to bear immediately in Africa was remarkable. We don't have that anymore. If you look at the CDC and the expertise there, they've pretty much routed out the expertise, but in many cases up to a third of the employees in given areas are no longer there. So we really have been left hamstrung as a country to help respond. And this is not just an altruistic issue. This is about for all of them. If we start to see Ebola spread because of contact with people in Africa who then are leaving the country and going elsewhere, it's just going to complicate the issues even more in terms of how we end up stopping this outbreak.
The U.S. plan, part of it to this point, is to prevent travelers who have been in those nations who could have come in contact with us from arriving in the United States. That's not enough. I take it you believe.
That's not even an issue in a sense. We know that with Ebola, one does not even become infectious until you're quite severely ill. So unlike
the period of incubation.
Yeah, that's a period of incubation, but once I become sick, once I develop a fever, where you're not infectious for literally several more days after that. So by following these individuals, with the first onset of a fever, getting them into the hospital and getting them into a controlled environment where they won't transmit is simple to do. In the 2014 outbreak, the one case we had transmission in the United States was an individual who was from Africa who came to visit family.
It's not an agency, it's a construction management system, but I'm asking because I'm going to start building the marketing strategy and team. It's a construction management system. SaaS, cool. DM me your idea. I'll give you feedback. I'm all for building your business. I'm not for SaaS. Not much for SaaS, to be honest. I think SaaS is 2018, 2019. What I would do is repackage your product to be. Anyway, DM me your thought. I'll give you DM me your idea. I'll give you thoughts. Come on, I just gotta break one fucking level. Come on. One fucking level. Come on. Come on, I know you like me. I like you too. Come on. I like you too. Come on. Yes!
It is 8 a.m. on the East Coast, and you're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernan and Andrew Sorkin. And among today's top stories, NVIDIA is jumping into the PC business. The company says that will make chips that serve as the main processor for personal computers. Those processors will debut this fall in a new line of Windows PCs from Microsoft, Dell, HP, and several other manufacturers. NVIDIA shares up by about 2.2%. Japan's SoftBank is investing more than $80 billion into AI infrastructure in France. In an exclusive interview, the CEO, Masa-san, told CNBC that President Macron pitched him on the project, saying France has the power generation capacity and asked SoftBank to build the data center. SoftBank shares up by 14%. And Berkshire Hathaway is buying home builder Taylor Morrison Homes for $72.50 a share in cash, for $6.8 billion excluding debt. That's a 24% premium to Friday's closing price. Taylor Morrison, CEO, will be on Squawk on the Street. That is coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
And we've got some breaking news to bring you right now. Sources telling me that Barry Diller's People, formerly IAC, is preparing a $18 billion bid to buy MGM, the casino giant. We're going to watch and see where the stock goes. The offer, what I'm being told, is at $48.30 a share. The stock was trading on Friday, I believe, at about $43 a share. Represents about a 10% premium over the Friday close, but represents about a
bro, DM me as soon as you can before I forget.
Worth noting that Barry Diller's People, which of course was just renamed, had been IAC for many, many years, owns about 26% of MGM. Already, the company has 2 board seats, one of which Barry is on himself. So he is on the board of MGM, which is going to, of course, take him out of the voting process for this transaction. And we're going to, I'm told that this bid could come today. It's not finalized just yet, but this stock now moving on the back of that news up at 47.97. The question, of course, is whether this bid could put the company itself into play. Other suitors could emerge to try to buy MGM. Of course, one of the big sticking points is that Barry Diller's People owns 26%, not just of the company, but of the voting shares of the company. So
And if anybody else steps in to make a bid, you're not going to get 26% right off.
So his ability to effectively have a blocking position against any other bid makes this more complicated if in fact other bidders were to emerge. Now, it's worth noting, if you look at MGM's stock, that it's actually come back recently. It had fallen for some time. There, of course, is the competition that has been coming, by the way, in the form of Kalshi and Polymarket and the like. Part of Barry Diller's original, I think, thoughts on MGM were Vegas, but also the digital side of this. Also, of course, there's Macau and the plans to build out in Japan. So some big news. A lot of folks, I think, had thought that IAC was effectively shedding assets, if you will, to sort of focus on people. And I believe that people still a huge part of this, but MGM is their other major stake. And this would grow that stake in a very, very big way. We're going to watch to see what happens.
And Barry and MGM, I immediately think of MGM Studios as the place that he would be going. They have a huge number of Las Vegas properties: Bellagio, Aria, Cosmopolitan, MGM Grand.
There's some debt in this too.
Yeah, so the $18 billion figure that I just mentioned, it would include debt. On an equity basis, if you just math out the $48 that we're talking about, it's about $12 billion. So it's basically it's basically about $12 billion plus the assumption of $6 billion of debt. I am being told that this would be financed entirely in cash, so this is not a cash and stock deal that people would be. It's funny to be describing a deal and saying people are going to be buying MGM. So I keep saying Barry Diller is buying from MGM. Barry Diller is the people is seeking to buy MGM. Of course, we're going to watch the wires to see whether that proposal crosses sometime today, and of course, what kind of reaction we get from the board of MGM Casinos. But of course, I should say,
We talk about price of oil, crude moving higher. Joining us with more on the energy markets, Rebecca Badman, CIBC Private Wealth Senior Energy Trader and Managing Director. It's good to have you on this morning. Good morning.
Hey, how's it going, Jeff?
It's going well, thanks. When we talk about oil, there's so many sort of new things to consider this time around. we are self-sufficient in this country right now, and people have a hard time, figuring out if we got all this oil, why do we have to price it where the rest of the world prices it? Then there's all this inventory that people had, and we don't know when that's going to run out. People are saying the clock is ticking and we're getting close. And then there's all this floating oil, like an armada of floating oil in the strait, and we don't know how quickly, that could solve this problem if the strait were to reopen. With all that in mind, what do you think is going to happen over the next 3 months, Rebecca?
So you made all the great points of why this is so hard to price and hard to model. I would say two things. The key point you're addressing is that the clock is ticking. So we talked about the buffers that we had coming into this. We talked about how energy independent the U.S. is to a certain extent, but we're eroding through all those buffers. So as time goes on, we're just not going to be able to keep the price contained as inventories deplete. And when that happens has been a bit of a moving target. And I will say this, Joe, the market and analysts have called it a bit wrong, including myself here, thinking that if we got to here in June and we didn't have a reopening, we'd be at 120, 130. What we've really seen is some very significant demand rationing and destocking out of Asia, particularly in China. So that's really been the next lever that has been pulled. And it hasn't been in road fuels. If you looked at data that came out last week, gasoline demand in the US, even with gas prices well above 4, was strong, but it's been in the petrochemical sector, so it's less apparent to the numbers that analysts currently track. So when we think about when this comes to fruition, I think we're really looking at, if we do not see 50% of the flows through Hormuz resumed by the end of June, we're in a very different scenario. At that point, more of the SPR that's been released, that's 400 million barrels that was released by the SPRs globally, will be very, very much eroded through, and I think prices will be meaningfully higher. Now, the market is very much looking forward to that, saying, we're on a diplomatic path, this is coming, it's going to be rocky. Now, it's really hard when you look at the physical market to have that confidence, because we're going to see those inventory draws over the next several weeks. So it's a key factor. But I think the last thing I'd say is, don't necessarily look at how many boats are coming out of Hormuz. Okay, there was 150 million barrels trapped behind there. We've lost 1 billion barrels of supply. Think about who's coming.
Okay, guys, let me know. Thank you for joining. I have to jump on my call with the team. I'm gonna head out. Have a great day. Have an amazing day, bro. I have to have the pre-market call with the team. New York time, so they wake up. They woke up. It says good morning. Cool.
They're about 80% full on storage, so they're not having to fully shut in their production. They still have some storage available, but again, that will deplete, and they will have to shut in. I think the thing the market thought there was, they're going to shut in, and all of a sudden their fields are going to be ruined, and they're not going to be able to come back up. They survived COVID. They survived Trump's initial sanctions, which took their production really low. They are decently adept at figuring out how to maintain their oil fields in these scenarios. So I wouldn't be counting the clock on that as much as I'm counting the clock on when flows start to come through and where inventory levels are.
And so this is July we're looking at. To get a barrel of oil in certain parts of the world today, what's the most that people are paying right now?
So most people are playing, sometimes we look at the physical market that's happening in kind of Brent dated futures, and that's around, $3 or $4 higher than where Brent is trading now, 94, 95. It's nothing like the premiums we saw when this conflict erupted. And this is another key factor. We saw hoarding. Everyone reached out and bought everything they could get their hands on. Physical market players are now saying, I don't want to be the last guy who bought, $110 crude. I'm going to destock into this because I see a diplomatic path. So the physical market is counting their chickens before they hatch, or counting their barrels before they ship, just like the paper market is at this point.
What did you mention June and whether it's back to 50%? Like this, the writing on the wall what we hear President Trump saying and sort of the real, he seems dead set on getting something done to at least reopen the strait. Don't you think that it's likely that it's only June 1st, if I got that right? My father's birthday, but don't you think it'll happen this month? You don't know any more than anybody else, I guess, but I just get the feeling that he's going to try really hard to get that strait reopened. Just is it possible to do it?
Sure, but keep in mind, he's not the only player here. You know, we're in a three-to-tango situation here. We need Iran to make the concessions that make it work. We need Israel involved, and we need Trump. So I think if it were just Trump, wanting to get this through, I think that might look different. But we have more players involved, and we have a scenario where everyone's testing each other's leverage, and it's playing out over a longer time horizon. Wanting it really bad and getting it to the tape is very different.
Okay, great. All right, Rebecca Bevan, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. When we come back, the Dow, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Russell 2000, all at record highs. But our next guest sees some cracks in the foundation of this current rally. Wait until you hear what he has to say. Rockefeller International Chairman Ruchir Sharma will join us to explain his case next. Stock price. We'll be right back.
quite similar. It's just that because we had the crash later, that everyone remembers that, with all the negative connotations, but actually the earnings from the tech sector in that 5-year stretch of the book was 20% as well.
Cisco and Lucid and all those.
Exactly.
They're actually making a lot of money because the investments were being made.
Yes, and the fact is that their valuation got much higher, but just in terms of earnings that were there. And the third really important factor, which I think is the big difference in this era, is that back then there was hardly any private investment going on. That what you saw is what you got, because it was all happening in the public markets. You're getting massive amount of IPOs because that's the only way of raising money. The private markets really existed. Now a lot of the funding happens in the private markets, and that's where a lot of the loss-making companies first start. And like it was
OpenAI and Anthropic and SpaceX.
Yeah, so back then you couldn't sustain such high rounds of funding if you were just in the private markets. Now you can do that and come to the public markets much later. So you combine these three things and you figure out, what, the profit picture today, yes, of course, it says a lot about the American dynamism, it says a lot about how Americans will be much better than the rest of the world, the profits remain the envy of the world. But actually, if you look deeper, these three factors are somewhat misrepresenting what the true picture of American profitability and American profit growth currently is.
And I guess that you don't see it ending. I guess my question would be when?
There's one factor which has ended every single bull market or every single AI bubble type scenario that we've seen, which is higher interest rates. And here, the importance of higher bond yields becomes even more important, right? Because every single bubble that I've looked at for the last 300 years has ended with one factor, which is you end up getting higher interest rates or some liquidity event which takes place. This time my point is that that's likely to come from at some point in time when bond yields become unhinged. And we see that the market doesn't like bond yields getting anywhere close to 5% of the 10-year. So I think that's when you begin to see this entire thing get into reverse, because the government is by any chance forced to tighten their belt by running over deficits. Corporate profits will come down because they're being artificially funded today, I say, by the very expansionary government deficit that we run.
Yeah, I was going to say, we look at things in the past for why you get business models that no longer work. One would be you're used to 0% financing, that disappears and that breaks things. If you have the government unable to spend at the same level, I guess you're saying that would soak up a lot of the capital and it would go there. If you look at the PE ratios, though, on some of the leaders of this, they're not out of whack, particularly NVIDIA. If you look at it, and I think it's forward PE ratio 23 times. The PE ratio, even at current earnings, is 32 times. So that's not insane.
Yes.
That's really low, actually, when you consider how fast the growth has been.
Yeah. I guess because we keep comparing this to 1999-2000, right?
So where are we in that comparison?
Yeah, so we're nowhere near 1999-2000 as far as the valuations are concerned. But the only caveat I have today is that the earnings could also be a bit of a bubble. And that's because the earnings are being artificially inflated, as I said, because of these three factors, including the government deficit. Back in the late 90s, the government really ran a deficit, right? So, but now, in the middle of a full expansion, we're running a 6% of GDP budget deficit. Just that the entire world is very excited by the AI story in America, so they're willing to fund this massive deficit. But partly because China is so weak that the capital keeps coming here. But if something will disrupt that flow of capital coming into America, or because, let's say, some concerns were rising that the budget deficit just keeps going up, that could disrupt this. So I think I agree that this is not yet like 1999-2000 as far as the valuations are concerned, but the earnings growth, it's not that different from what we saw in 1999-2000, and the fact that earnings are, unlike back then, are being artificially inflated because of the massive government deficit, and also if you look at the total earnings, not just the S&P 500,
But as you know, Andrew, when you looked at this as well, which is the fact that there is no science to know when does a bubble end or when does a end, right? But the only consistent factor in 300 years is when you end up getting high interest rates. So it comes back down to that. And until you get that, this momentum keeps going.
So what do you tell people to do? Stop putting more money, new money into the market? Do you tell them to sell and run for the hills? Because if this goes on for a while, even if you're right, they could get burned by the idea that prices jump a lot more before they come back down.
Yes, so true. I think before the smart traders got on your show, including some of the big hedge fund guys, they're all saying that currently stay invested because the next year or two, they don't see the prospect of this ending. That's one way of doing it, that you stay invested through this, knowing that these are the flaws. The second thing which you do, which is what I've been saying, is that around the world today, there are some very cheap quality companies, which is the fact that you have companies today with those. At one end, you have all these companies which are because of the AI. On the other hand, you have companies you can stay away from both because you don't know how much the disruption goes with AI is for real. On the other hand, you could end up buying all these cheap companies just ignore just now. Just because in the midst of the entire concentration happening in this cohort of stocks. So that's one sort of way that often buy the stuff which is being ignored. You know, I can say the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So don't buy the love or the hate, buy the indifference. So I think that's one way of doing it. But yeah, I think that we have to be open-minded to this, that this momentum could keep running. And as some of the smart guys said, we showed this could still be October 99 rather than March 2000, and the NASDAQ doubled in that period.
5 months. So, but love and indifference, the opposite of love. Not hate. Love and hate.